Okay, we'll start today's lecture with uh, some previous background which we covered. In the last lecture, we discussed about the appendicular skeleton. So, appendicular skeleton is that part which is away from the center. This is the axial skeleton, and this which is away from the center, that is called as the appendicular skeleton, including the bones of the upper limb as well as the bones of the lower limb. In the last class, we also discussed that the appendicular skeleton consists of the shoulder girdle. So this is called as the shoulder girdle and the bones of the upper limb. And the appendicular skeleton also includes the pelvic girdle. This is the pelvic girdle and the bones of the lower limb. So all the bones of the upper limb and lower limb along with their girdles will be included in the appendicular skeleton. Now coming to the shoulder girdle, we discussed there are two important bones. One is called as the clavicle, which is also called as the collarbone, or it is also called as the bone of beauty. And then there is second bone called as the scapula. This is the scapula, which is also called as the shoulder blade. Clavicle is called as collarbone, scapula is called as the shoulder blade. And we saw that the clavicle has two ends, sternal end and acromial end, and scapula has three borders, three angles, three processes, as well as the three fossae. Okay, so we discussed all these things in the last class. Now we'll go to the bones of the upper limb. So we'll talk about all the bones of the upper limb. So there are some important bones of the upper limb. The bones of the arm, that is called as the humerus, and then the bones of the forearm, that is called as the ulna and the radius, and then we have the bones of the hand, which include the carpal, metacarpal, as well as the phalanges. Okay, these are the bones of the upper limb. We'll go one by one. The first and the most important bone, the largest, thickest bone in the upper limb is the humerus. This is the humerus bone of the arm. So it is, if you see this picture, this is where it is present. So here it will be, this is the humerus. So this is the humerus here. So we are talking about this bone. Then we'll go to the forearm limb. That is, this is the radius and this is the ulna. Then here will be the bones of the hand, including the carpal, metacarpal, and the phalanges. So we'll start with this bone, then we'll go to this. We already finished the clavicle and the scapula. This is the clavicle, which is called as the collarbone, and the scapula, which is called as the shoulder blade. Now we are talking about this bone, the humerus. Okay, so the humerus, as we saw, it is the bone of the only bone in the arm. That part where this bone is present, that part is called as the arm. Okay, so this is the only bone of the arm, very thick bone called as the humerus. The head of the humerus fit into the glenoid cavity of the scapula. You see, the head, which is rounded in shape, will fit into the glenoid cavity. This is the glenoid cavity. If you again go back to the picture, you will see that it is fitting into. If you see the head of the humerus, which is round, it is like a ball, and it is fitting into the socket called as the glenoid cavity, and this joint is called as the ball and socket type of joint. Okay. So the head of the humerus fit into the glenoid cavity of the scapula. Distal and medially, the trochlea articulates with the ulna. So here, if you see the lower part, this part is called as the trochlea. Trochlea. This part is called as trochlea, and this is called as the capitulum. Capitulum. So the distal and medial part, trochlea, articulates with the ulna. This bone, ulna below will be the ulna bone, bone of the form. We'll talk about that. Then distal laterally will be the capitulum, which articulates with the radius. This capitulum will be articulating with the radius. This is the trochlea and this is the capitulum. The elbow joint is a hinge joint that allows flexion and extension of the forearm. There are different types of joint. We'll talk about that. One of the type of joint is called as the hinge joint. Okay. So what is hinge joint and other details we'll study in the future classes. So now coming to the radius and ulna, two important bones of the forearm. So this is called as the ulna and this is the radius. So this is the front view, this is the back view. So the radius and ulna and the radius, or the radius and the ulna. The forearm contains two bones. The lateral bone is called as the radius. This is the lateral bone. Lateral means outside. Okay. And the medial bone is towards the center. This is called as the ulna. Radius and the ulna, two bones. So here you can see here. So this is the lateral bone called as the radius and this called as the ulna. In anatomical position, the radius is lateral. So this is the anatomical position. Okay, where the radius is lateral away from the center. It is called as the lateral. Towards the thumb, this is the thumb here. So towards that radius bone is present. With pronation, the palm faces posteriorly and bones cross. You see here, this is called as pronation. This position is called as supination. This is the normal anatomical position. Radius is lateral and the ulna is medial. Now here this is called, this position is called as the pronation. Okay, radius rotates over the ulna. If you see here, the radius which was lateral, now it has rotated over the ulna. So this is the radius now crossing. Here they are both parallel to each other, but this position, the radius crosses the ulna. Now coming to the bones of the hand, we saw the bones of the arm, that is the humerus, and the bones of the forearm, that is the radius and ulna. Now coming to the bones of the hand. So this is the hand here. So this part is called as the hand. Okay. So there are carpal bones. These are called as carpal bones. These are the carpal bones. There are 8 carpal bones. Proximal bones for the wrist joint. Here is the wrist joint, and there are just near the wrist there are 8 carpal bones arranged in 2 rows. So there are 2 rows with these carpal bones. All the names have been written here. So this is the trapezoid, trapezium, scaphoid, lunate, trapezium, hamate, capitate. All these are the bones of the carpal bones. Okay. Then coming to the metacarpals. So these are called as metacarpal. There are 5 metacarpals starting from lateral. One, two, three. It is called as first, second, third, fourth, and fifth metacarpals. 5 metacarpals of the hand. Then the small bones of the fingers. These are called as digits, phalanges, or they are also called as fingers. The bones of the fingers are called as the phalanges. Fingers or digits consist of miniature long bones called as the phalanges. So if you see here, these are also long. Even though they are small in size, they are not called as short bones, but these are also long because the length is more than that of the width. So these are called as the long bones. Okay, the fingers or digits consist of miniature long bones called as the phalanges. So these bones are called as phalanges. This is the proximal, this is the middle, and the distal phalanx. Okay. Okay, the thumb is also called as the pollex. It has 2 phalanges, only 2. Here, if you see, only the thumb has 2. All other fingers have three phalanges. The other 4 fingers have 3 phalanges. Proximal, as you can see here, this is proximal, middle, and the distal. Distal meaning away from the against the center. So these are the bones of the hand. These are called as carpal bones, and here are the metacarpal. You see here, these are carpal bones here. These are the 5 metacarpals, and here are the phalanges. These are the phalanges. So there are 14 phalanges, 8 carpal bones, 5 metacarpal, and 14 phalanges. Because here the thumb has only 2, proximal and end. This is the proximal and distal. Okay. Now coming to the shoulder girdle, we have studied the shoulder girdle. Now we are going to the pelvic girdle. Pelvic girdle. Now we are going to the lower limb. So it contains the pelvic girdle, strongly attached to the axial skeleton, that is the sacrum, more stable than the pectoral girdle. This is more stronger and stable girdle compared to the shoulder girdle. Shoulder girdle we saw made up of 2 bones, scapula and the clavicle. Okay, but this is more stable pelvic girdle, but less freedom of movement. Movements at the the shoulder girdle are much more compared to the pelvic girdle. So it even though this is more stable joint, stronger joint, but it is less freedom of movement. Made up of paired hip bones. It is made up of two hip bones, right and left. You see here, these are called as the hip bones, or they are also called as innominate bone, hip bone. Okay, so this is one hip bone and the two hip bone. Right. This is the right hip bone, this is the left hip bone. Okay, so they are in pairs. Made up of paired hip bones. This is called as the bony pelvis. Bony pelvis is a basin-like structure. Hip bones plus the axial sacrum and the coccyx form the bony pelvis. Along with this hip bones, two bones, sacrum and the coccyx, this whole thing is called as the bony pelvis. Bony pelvis. Okay. Pelvic girdle is only these two bones. Two hip bones are called as the pelvic girdle, and along with the sacrum and the coccyx, this is called as the bony pelvis. Each hip consists of three bones. Again, this each hip bone is made up of three parts: pubis, ischium, and ilium. Actually, there are three bones which are fused together. If you see here, each hip bone is made up of three parts: ilium, this is the pubis, and there is the ischium. So three bones have fused together to form a single bone called as the hip bone. So hip bone is made up of three parts, or actually there are three different separate bones which have fused together. Okay. Now this is called as the hip bone. So it is made up of ilium, pubis, and the ischium. These are the three parts. This is the ilium, this is the pubis, and this is the ischium. When the two pubis come and join together in the center, this is called as the pubic symphysis. Pubic symphysis. See here, so this is the pubic symphysis. This joint is called as the pubic symphysis. Now coming to the bones of the lower limb. Just like we studied the bones of the upper limb. What are the bones of the upper limb? The humerus, radius ulna. Then we studied the carpal, metacarpal, and the phalanges in the hand. Similarly, we also have the similar type of bones in the lower limb. Okay. So which are those? In case of thigh, there is only one bone, just like in case of arm, there is only one bone called as the humerus. In case of thigh, there is a big one single bone called as the femur. Okay. Then, in case of the forearm, we had two bones, radius and ulna. Similarly, in case of leg, we have two bones. One is called as tibia, and the other bone is called as the fibula. Tibia and the fibula. These are two bones. Going to the, just like in case of hand, we studied different bones. Similarly, we have bones in the foot. Foot. Okay. So just like there, we had carpal bones. We have tarsal bones here. Tarsal bone. Just like in case of the hand, we had carpal bones. There are 8 carpal bones, but here there are only 7 tarsal bones. There we had metacarpal bones. Here we have the 5 metatarsals. There were 5 metacarpals. Here they are called as metatarsal. Slight change. Okay. Then, in case of the hand, we had 14 phalanges. It is same here also. There are 14 phalanges, because just like in the case of thumb, there are only 2 bones. Similarly, here in case of the foot, the great toe has only 2 bones, 2 phalanges. Now coming to the largest bone in the strongest and the thickest bone in the whole body, this is called as the femur, which is present in the lower limb. The thickest, strongest bone, longest bone in case of the whole body is the femur. Very big bone, strong bone, and this is called as the femur. Femur is the bone of the thigh. The region where this bone is present, that region is called as the thigh. At its distal end articulates with the tibia. If you see here, this is called as the distal end. This is the proximal end where the head of the femur is present. Just like in case of the humerus, the head of humerus. Similarly, here also there is a ball type of head called as the head of the femur. And the distal end, at the distal end, it articulates with the tibia of the leg, but it is also articulates anteriorly with the patella. In the front, there is this bone called as the patella. You see that. The patella is the largest small bone in the body. If you see here, this is called as the patella. In case of the knee, just in front of the knee, there is a thick bone which is present within the tendon of the lower leg. Okay, so this bone which is present within the muscle, that is called as the patella, small bone. It is called as the small bone. It has a specific name called as patella. This is the largest small bone. If you see here, this is the side view taken, X-ray taken from a side. You can see only the bones. You cannot see the muscle here. So you can see the patella, but not the muscle where it is present. Okay, so this is how it looks like within the muscle tendon. So this muscle and this is the patella. So as I said before, the patella is the largest small bone in the body. It is circular bone, articulates with the femur and the tibia. So here is the femur behind, and below this is the called as the tibia. We'll see this bone in detail. Okay. So now coming to the bones of the leg. So there are two important bones of the leg, just like in case of the uh, forearm, we had two bones, radius and the ulna. Similarly, we have two bones in the leg. This is called as the one is the this is the tibia here. Large thick bone in the leg. This is called the tibia, and this is called as the fibula. So the leg contains two bones, tibia and the fibula. The tibia is medial in position, is the largest than the lateral position fibula, and is weight bearing bone. So this tibia is the thick big bone here in the leg compared to the lateral, which is the fibula, which is smaller bone. And this is present medial to this bone. Medial means towards the center, and it is weight bearing. So this all the bone, weight from the body will be carried to the femur into this bone, not to this bone. So all the weight is borne by this bone. Okay, so this is the bone here called as the this is the tibia. Now here this is the smaller bone called as the fibula. The fibula does not take part in the knee joint. Here is the knee between the femur and the tibia, that is called as the knee joint. We also already saw. So this joint is called as the knee joint. Okay, where the patella is present. So here the tibia will be articulating with the femur here. If you see going back, tibia is articulating with the femur. So this is the knee joint, and there is no fibula here in the knee joint. So the fibula does not take part in the knee joint and forms only the most lateral part of the ankle joint proximally. Here is this point is called this is called as the knee joint, and here is the ankle joint. So it forms only the lateral part of the ankle joint proximally. Now coming to the bones of the foot, just like we studied the bones of the hand, we had there many bones. Similarly, here also in case of the foot, we have similar kind of bones. There in the hand, we had eight metacarpal bones. The eight carpal bones. Here we have seven tarsal bones. Instead of carpal, here in the foot, they are called as tarsal. So there they are eight, but here they are less one. This is called as the tarsal bone. Okay. Then there it will be five metacarpals. Here there are five, but they are called as metatarsals, not carpals, metatarsals. Then the phalanges are same number 14. There also, here also 14. Okay. So each toe has three phalanges, as we said. So all phalanges have all the fingers. Phalanges means fingers have three phalangeal bones. These bones are three in each finger, except there in case of hand it was the thumb. Here in case of the foot it is called as the toe. Except that all other the fingers have three digits, three phalanges. Okay. So the three phalanges will be the proximal, intermediate, and distal. Just like in case of the hand, proximal, which is towards the body, that is called as the proximal, which is away from the body, that is called as distal, and center in between is called as intermediate. Yeah, so there are three phalanges except the big toe where there is only proximal and distal. There are no intermediate. So in case of big toe, two phalanges. One is the proximal, the first one, and the last one. There is no intermediate because the big toe has only two phalanges. So same holds good for even for the thumb. Okay. So there are seven tarsal bones which are organized in two rows with an intermediate bone between the two rows on the medial side. So the tarsal bone, just like in case of the hand, the carpal bones are arranged in two rows. Similarly, there are two rows in case of the foot where the seven tarsal bones are arranged. Okay, and only change is there are eight carpal bones, but here there are only seven tarsal bones. Okay, so this is the bones. Now we are talking about something called as healing of the bone. So we should know something about how, if there are any fractures, how the bones will heal themselves. Okay, so whenever there is fracture, initially the first stage is called as the hematoma formation. As soon as there is bleeding, there is fracture, there will be a rupture of the arteries will break, and there will be severe bleeding in that part. Okay, so this is called as the first stage of healing, that is called as the hematoma formation. Then what happens? Then within this hematoma, there will be formation of the fibrocartilaginous callus formation. So within this, slowly the arteries, broken arteries, will again rejoin, as well as there is distribution of the fibrocartilaginous material within this hematoma in the second stage. Then what happens? Then within this fibrocartilaginous changes, then if there is sufficient quantity of calcium within the body, then there is formation of bone callus formation. Now slowly the calcium starts depositing within this hematoma. Initially there will be bleeding, just bleeding, then the arteries will join, and then within the bleeding, there's a development of the fibrocartilaginous structures. Then in the later stages, within that, there will be deposition of calcium, deposition of the calcium. Okay, now this is called as the bony callus formation, bony callus formation. Finally, what happens with this calcification, this process of formation of calcium within this bone, where there is fracture, this is called as callus formation or calcification. Next stage is called as the bone remodeling. Now, because of this bleeding and deposition of calcium and fibrocartilaginous material and calcium, everything, this part of the bone becomes irregular, different from the normal shape of the bone. Now, in the fourth stage, what happens? Bone remodeling. So now slowly the bone starts healing itself, and it modifies itself into, and it goes back to the normal position. Slowly, you see here now there are still some material left, but it is healing, and the bone is again going back to its normal position. Okay, once there is complete healing, then the bone totally is modified and remodeled to the normal shape. Okay, so this is the whole process of whole healing in case of bone fracture. So as soon as there is fracture, there is severe bleeding and hematoma formation because of the rupture of arteries. Then after some time, there is fibrocartilaginous callus formation within this uh, blood area, and the artery starts rejoining. In the third stage, later, there is slowly deposition of the calcium. So this is called as the bony callus formation. Now it has acquired the bony part, but it is very irregular in shape. It has not reached the normal stage. So in the fourth stage, what happens? The bone remodeling. So now it starts modifying its, bringing it back itself into the normal shape which it was before. So this is called as the bone remodeling stage. Okay. So these are some of the stages by which the bone will heal if there is any fractures. Okay. Now coming to the factors affecting bone metabolism and healing. So what will help? How the bone healing will be? It can be fastened, or how it actually does healing. Okay, what are the things which are necessary for the normal bone healing? If not, if there is any deficiency of this, then there will be remodeling will not be good. It will be very heavy. Okay, so what are the factors which affect the bone metabolism and healing? One is the nutritional factors, then the hormonal factors. Two types of factors are necessary. So the first is the nutrition. Very important will be the nutritional factors, which includes, I was talking about the calcium deposition, calcium and phosphate. Both are very much necessary for the bone remodeling. Any deficiency, if there is no sufficient quantity of calcium and phosphate, if there is any deficiency, then in case of children, any deficiency of this calcium and phosphate will lead to rickets called as rickets. Okay, abnormal bone position in case of children. And if there is deficiency in case of the old adults, in case of adult people, then it is called as the osteomalacia. Any deficiency of calcium and phosphate in children is called as rickets, and in old it is called as the osteomalacia. So calcium and phosphate are very much necessary for bone healing. Then we have the second nutrition, that is the vitamin D. Not only calcium, but vitamin D is also very much important for the absorption of calcium, especially for the absorption. Vitamin D is very much necessary. Okay, so vitamin D also very important. If there is deficiency in case of children, again it has because of the non absorption of calcium. So if there is deficiency of vitamin D, it leads to non-absorption of calcium or very less amount of calcium absorption, which leads to rickets in children. Then the third important nutrition necessary will be the vitamin C, which causes a condition called as the scurvy. Okay. So these are the nutritional factors. Okay. One is calcium phosphate, then vitamin D, vitamin C. Now coming to the hormonal factors. What are the hormonal factors which are very much important for bone healing and metabolism? One is called as the calcitonin, very important hormone which is necessary for the absorption of the calcium. So this is called as the calcitonin. The second hormone is the parathyroid hormone, which just does the opposite to that of the calcitonin. Okay, so this is the function of the parathyroid. So whenever there is increased formation of the parathyroid hormone, then it leads to decreased absorption. Okay, so it does just the opposite function of the calcitonin. The third important factor is the growth hormone itself, because it helps in the total growth of the body, including the bones. So this hormone is also very much necessary, important for the bone healing and metabolism. And the fourth hormone is the thyroid hormone, which helps also in the overall growth of the muscles, bones, everything. That is also very important hormones, the T3 and T4. Okay, so these are some of the hormones which are essential. Nutritional factors like calcium and phosphate, vitamin D and vitamin C, and hormones like the calcitonin, parathyroid hormone, growth hormone, and the thyroid hormone. So this is all about this lecture, which was about the skeleton part. The skeleton. First, we studied the bone itself, the types of bones, long bone, short bone, flat bone, and the irregular bones. Then we studied the bones of the body. Okay, we studied the appendicular skeleton as well as the axial skeleton. We studied the axial skeleton in the previous class, and today we completed the appendicular skeleton. So if you have any doubts regarding any part of the skeletal system, you can ask me now. Students, are you there? Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Doctor.
Did you follow? Okay, go back again, read. Okay, and if you have any doubts on Sunday, inshallah, we will try to cover all these in the practical. So don't miss the practicals, be attentive and try to attend so that we can discuss all these bones. I will show the all these bones and we will discuss in detail. So read and come for all these lectures, both the skeleton 1 and skeleton 2, so that we can discuss all in the Sunday's practical, inshallah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.